Good morning, everybody. Hey, all right. Thank you all for being here. Everybody grabbing their food, obviously continue to do so and take a seat. We want to get this thing started so we can keep moving here. First of all, good morning and thank you for being here. My name is John Bachman with Channel 2. Hopefully you all can tune in at 4 o'clock and see me on the newscasts and get the latest information. If not, we're online at WSBTV.com, I'm just saying. All right, I want to do a little housekeeping before we get started. We have a couple things. First and foremost, I know everybody has at least one of these, so if you could, please turn them off or at least on silent so we can keep this show going. If you need to get up and use the restrooms are through this door here, and I don't suspect we'll have any emergencies, but there are 3 exits with all the draperies pulled back there for you. And also, if you would, when you do leave today, exit back that way through the rear of the room. Now I would like to acknowledge, everybody in this room is important, obviously, but want to acknowledge some of the folks that are elected officials here. First of all, we have a few mayors that I know of for sure in the room. So let's start with Mayor Mike Davis from Dunwoody. I know you're here back in the back there. Mayor Eric Clarkson with Chamblee. Where are you, sir? There you are. And any other mayors that I have not seen so far, please stand and be acknowledged. Mayor Vince Williams. Where's Vince? There he is. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else? Please stand and be recognized. Yes, thank you. All right. We have city council members here. I know C.T. Martin is here. C.T. Martin, please stand. Atlanta City Council. Is anybody else here from City Council that I have missed? Okay. Let's see. Fulton DeKalb County Commissioners, please stand. I know we have a few of those here today. We have Liz in the front there. Who else did I miss? I'm sorry. Jeff Rader. Yes, sir. There's Jeff Rader. Thank you, guys. Let's see here. We have members from several of our Congress members here. We have, let's see, who am I missing on this? We have Jordan Dawson. Jordan, where you are, from Senator Isaacson's office. There he is in the back. Thank you. And let's do our state House and Senate representatives from our state legislature. I know Mike Jacobs is here. Representative Jacobs, there he is. Representative Pat Gardner, there she is. Thank you. And Fran Miller, are you here? There he is. And let's see, did I forget anybody else or not getting? Brandon Beach, yes, sorry, sir, there he is. Thank you very much. Senator Beach, okay. This is kind of a fun game. This is a fun game. Anybody having fun? Okay, transportation commissioners and board. Let's see, state transportation board members. Do we have anybody there? We have anyone with? Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Dana Lemon and Stacy. Okay, very good. Stacy Keys. Yes, thank you. Let's see. Did I miss any important groups and names besides the rest of you who are all, of course, VIPs? All right. Thank you all for being here. We would like to now invite Chairman Fred Daniels to the stage for your opening remarks. Fred has served on the MARTA Board for Directors for the last 4 years. The last 2 as chair representing DeKalb County. Leads a newly formed board and the agency through the transition of leadership in these challenging times, although you guys are making the most of it, it sounds like. Chairman, also Executive Vice President at Citizens Bank. So please come on up, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John, for that kind introduction. And good morning, everyone. All right. As chairman of the board of directors, it is my personal honor to welcome you to the State of MARTA address. I'd like to extend warmest greetings to all of you on behalf of my fellow board members, some of whom are also here today. Would you please stand? Let's give them a round of applause. We have a great program in store for you today. I know you can't wait to hear from our General Manager and CEO, Keith Parker. I'm also looking forward to his address as well. You'll also hear from my colleagues, Vice Chair Barbara Kaufman of Fulton County, and Robert Ash from the City of Atlanta. On Monday, Robbie was elected the next board chair. Robbie is an accomplished attorney and litigator, a force to be reckoned with, which you need as the MARTA chair, and a true believer in MARTA. Robbie and our fellow board members are part of the legacy of servant leaders who know that MARTA is invaluable to growth, prosperity, and the quality of life in Metro Atlanta. We really do have great people here in Atlanta. Here at MARTA, of course here in Atlanta. That reality hit home for me on my first day as board chair back on January 1st, 2012. On that same day, my father and namesake passed. Just 2 months later, my long-term mentor in the banking industry and boss, CTB President Jim Young, also passed away. It was a very difficult period for me and my family. Frankly, I was concerned about taking on this responsibility. But with the help and support of some of the people in this room, other devoted members of the MARTA staff, I became energized and learned a lot more about this organization. And very quickly, during a difficult time, learned that leadership starts from within. From the beginning, my focus has always been getting MARTA's financials stabilized so that our riders, our stakeholders, and taxpayers would have the confidence that we could move this organization in the right direction. I knew that status quo wasn't sustainable. It was time for MARTA to make change the way we do in business or face fiscal insolvency. I can guarantee you we would not let that happen on this board's watch. With the support of my board members, we insisted on developing a plan to put MARTA on the path to fiscal sustainability. But a plan is only as good as the people who are implementing it. That's why I'm supremely confident that we have begun to turn MARTA around with Keith Parker and his leadership team. In a short period of time, Keith and his team have taken the board's strategic vision and made solid progress in putting it into action. As I said before, Keith is the right man for the job at the right time in MARTA's history. If you don't believe me, we've actually produced a video to prove it. The video will give you a glimpse of the accomplishments from 2013 that are the building blocks for MARTA's long-term transformation. I hope you enjoy the video, and thank you for supporting MARTA, and thank you again for being with us today. Let's cue the video.
We, as a transit system, will be looked upon as what's reestablishing Atlanta as a truly, truly world-class city. I'm looking forward to us having a business model that's sustainable. I'm looking forward to us becoming an employer of choice. And we, again, will be that city and that transit system that people look at as the role model of the entire industry. MARTA is implementing a 5-year strategic transformation program focused on reducing costs and enhancing revenues to improve MARTA's fiscal sustainability and position it for future growth.
Police held this fundraiser for Officer Anthony Russian on Saturday. He was off duty and in his personal vehicle hit him
On bad behavior, so you can enjoy the ride. Our employees are here to help you and make sure everyone rides with respect.
Ride with respect.
Ride with respect.
Ride with respect.
Viaje con respeto.
Ride with respect.
Ride with respect.
Very nice, very nice. A lot going on. And of course, a lot of Falcon stuff in there. And it's probably a pretty good thing they picked the South Side, isn't it, Keith? All right, it is time now to introduce Board Vice Chairman, Chairwoman Barbara Kaufman, and invite her to the stage now to introduce Keith. Of course, Barbara, CEO of BBK Enterprises and founder of the former Chapter 11 regional bookstore chain. Come on up. Thank you.
Well, this wasn't part of my remarks, but just watching that video, was that amazing? Didn't it just give you such a great feel of MARTA and what we're all about? But anyway, thank you, John, very much. I'm very honored to be here. I've been on the MARTA board for 7 years. For 2 of those years, I've been the vice chair. And after Dr. Bev Scott decided not to renew her contract, the board asked me to chair the selection committee for a new CEO, GM. The board's mandate was very clear. We needed a person that could transform and reposition MARTA for the future. We needed a strong leader who had expertise and political acumen to move MARTA forward to benefit our customers, employees, and the entire community. It was a very difficult and exhaustive process because of the many, many qualified candidates. We selected Keith Parker, and what a good decision we made. So on the occasion of his 1-year anniversary, let me tell you a little bit about Keith Parker. Before joining MARTA, Mr. Parker was CEO of San Antonio's Metro Transit Agency. Prior to San Antonio, he served as CEO for the Charlotte Area Transit System. He also served as the Assistant City Manager for the City of Charlotte. Prior to his experience in North Carolina, Keith Parker was the CEO for the Clark County Transit Authority in Vancouver, Washington, and Deputy Director of the Transit Agency in Richmond, Virginia. As you can see, his professional accomplishments and depth of experience are exactly what MARTA needs to continue to be a transit system that will make us all proud. His leadership will help us serve our customer and help this great city and region thrive. On a personal note, as they say, he had me at hello. Seriously, from the minute I met Keith Parker, I knew he was the one. So I am pleased, honored to introduce to you today, wherever he is, Mr. Keith Parker, our General Manager and CEO. Oh, there he is.
Well, again, good morning. And thank you, Barbara, for that gracious introduction. And, I've heard earlier this morning that one of the reasons why in North Korea the gentleman executed his uncle was because that the round of applause that he gave him when he was introduced as president was not vigorous enough. So I want to make sure we give the MARTA Board of Directors a very vigorous round of applause. We are thrilled to be here with you today, and certainly I know it's early, and several people have said that Keith, why in the world you got us out here at 7:30 in the morning? But we really do appreciate you being here and know there are many other things that are pulling your time, but this is an important occasion for us. This is a time for us to reflect a bit, but certainly it's a time for us also to thank the people who helped get us to this point. As MARTA looks upon the next 35 years, I want to recognize a few folks who have done some things that I think have made the first 35 years possible. We have a whole group of employees who are here, seated at this table just behind you, who have been here from the very start, 35 years or more with the MARTA transit system. So please stand up and let us recognize you. Now, before coming to Atlanta, one of the articles I read back in the fall of 2012, I heard and read that Mayor Reed mentioned that many of the MARTA employees, the frontline folks, were not getting their just due, that they worked hard every day and people just did not respect them enough, and that we really needed to recognize them more. No gentleman I completely agree with the mayor's comments, and no gentleman personifies this more than Coy Dumas. So Coy, please stand. This gentleman, let me tell you a little bit about him. He joined MARTA when Richard Nixon was president. And during that time, he's not had a single preventable accident, he's had perfect attendance, and he's not committed any rule violations. Thank you, sir, for the work you do. So again, why are we here? What is the state of MARTA? Well, the state of MARTA creates an opportunity for us to tell you, our stakeholders, what's happening with your transit system. You, if you pay the fare, or if you pay taxes in this community, you are a stakeholder, and the MARTA Board of Directors and the MARTA staff and every employee owes you an update as to how well we're managing your assets. We have an opportunity, in fact, we have an obligation to make sure you're completely informed about how we're managing the money, how we're handling our employees, and how we're preparing for the future as we look forward to taking MARTA to yet another level. This one-year milestone really began right where I stand now, with an introduction to the employees, where we began to lay out a blueprint of how we plan to transform the agency. And as we go through a number of slides that I wanted to show you to give you an update in a state of where we are, I want you to keep in mind that it is our goal every day to reach routine excellence, so that in everything we do, people stop thinking about MARTA as something that's holding Atlanta back, and instead as a piece of what's making all of Atlanta's possibilities real. That we want to be the iconic symbol that many other public service entities have become around the country and around the world. So as we talk forward and speak a little bit more about what it is we want and need from you, we want you to know that every day we're striving to be the most cost-effective, customer-friendly, and fiscally centered organization in the country. And that for those of you who are already making the investment, we want you to know that we're protecting your investment. We are doing everything we can to ensure that those dollars are being spent wisely. And for those of you who have not yet made the investment, for those who are not actively using MARTA, or whose communities have not yet made the commitment to join our system, we want to let you know that if you do, it will be the wisest investment you can make in terms of a great turnaround, bringing good returns to your customers and to your constituents, excellent returns to our community, and most importantly, helping to change our region again into what we all expect it to be. So with that, I want to share with you a few thoughts about where we are again, with the state of MARTA. We're the largest transit system in the Southeast and the 9th largest in the country. With over 4,500 employees, we have an enormous impact on the region and state's economy. Our transit system, the rail system, is, again, one of the larger ones in the country, though I'm going to talk to you about some of the challenges. And right now, surprisingly to many people, more than 80% of our folks who ride us on a daily basis give us pretty high marks. They are satisfied or very satisfied with the transit system. Following a small dip in satisfaction from fiscal 11 to fiscal 12, we're back on the move again. Our bus system, with over 500 vehicles throughout all of DeKalb and Fulton County, we carry hundreds of thousands of people a day. And again, we're seeing major growth in terms of overall customer satisfaction. We're at 77% and rising a substantial amount from last fiscal year. Our police department has won numerous national awards and is recognized as one of the most prepared in the entire country for any type of terrorist activity. With over 300 sworn officers, we are as large as many small towns and small cities in terms of our overall police department and overall police department saturation throughout our community. We're a Tier 1 agency, meaning that we're completely ready for that type of event that could occur that would require knowledge in how to deal with the terrorism and terroristic type activities. CNN will be doing a special featuring MARTA, a 30-minute special, and all the efforts we've made over the years to become as hardened as we can in regards to protecting the citizens from those types of attacks. And you've often heard me say that despite the occasional knucklehead behavior on our buses and trains, MARTA is one of the safest transit systems in the country. This chart shows MARTA in comparison to many other transit systems around the nation, including some of the large ones and even systems who are smaller. But as you see, we rank number 2 in the entire nation for fewest number of serious incidences on our trains and buses and in our stations. MARTA's impact on the economy cannot be understated. In a study done by the University of Georgia, they found that just under 25,000 jobs are supported by this transit agency on an annual basis, with an overall economic impact of $1.4 billion. This is one of the major drawing points now for new employers as they think about coming to Atlanta and the Atlanta region. And some good news as well on the ridership front. And I'm going to talk more about ridership a bit later. But for the first time in years, our ridership is slightly up for the first quarter of fiscal 14 as compared to the first quarter of fiscal 13. So we're beginning to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but we've got a long way to go. But this is an agency that's certainly had its challenges. As the Chairman Daniels mentioned, this is an agency that over the past 5 years has seen an enormous number of things happen that's caused us to really change the way we do business. Because of the recession in 2008 and 2009, we lost an enormous amount of revenue. And as a result, over the past 5 years, we've cut a third of all of our bus routes, completely eliminated them. Excuse me. We have dramatically increased the amount of time that it takes waiting in between trains. We've closed down more than half the restrooms in the stations, and our employees have also felt the brunt of these cuts. Most of our folks have only had one raise in the last 10 years, suffered through numerous furloughs, and seen higher costs as it relates to pension, health care, and so forth. And we've raised our fares. MARTA's raised its fares by about 40% in the last 3 to 4 years. All of these things combined have led to an enormously negative perception of the transit system. I know before coming in, I looked at about 6 months of articles and news coverage of the system, and almost universally, every day there was something negative. And it's had an impact not just on the folks out there, many of you who are investors, but it's had an impact even on our own employees who begin to wonder, what's the next shoe to fall, and will I even have a future in this company? And despite all those cuts and all those efforts to save money, the trend still was looking somewhat dismal. This is a chart that reflects where our operating balance was going. We have an operating reserve that's been built up over a number of years, and this chart shows that every year we were projecting from FY13 to FY18, MARTA would lose between $25 and $33 million from its reserves to the point where the agency would be fiscally insolvent in about 3 to 4 years. In fact, when I came in, one of the first meetings we had was with the then CFO, Davis Allen, who showed me the fiscal 13 budget, and it indicated that we were projected to lose $33 million in fiscal 13, and another 25, and another 28. So again, we would actually be in violation of the MARTA Act, which requires that the agency keep at least 10% of the previous year's operating revenue in reserves. Would be in violation of the state law if we continued on the path. But thankfully, we've been able to make some major changes in a relatively short period of time. Some reforms that were started in the previous administration of Bev Scott and her leadership team, we're continuing those pieces, but many others, things that we came up with fresh ideas, trying to find ways to cut costs. So as I began to look at what we needed to do to transform our agency, it really just boiled down to getting back to basics. We need to focus on customers, focus on our employees, and really bring fiscal sustainability to the agency. And in a relatively short period of time, we're able to eliminate literally hundreds of positions, find some great new efficiencies, and because of that, we turned that FY13 projected $33 million deficit into a $9 million addition to our reserves by the end of fiscal 13, which thank you very much, and it's just the beginning. And part of what I want to focus and make sure we highlight, this chart shows that the operating revenues only went up very slightly. Our operating revenues went up only 1%, by about $3 million. Where we really found these monies were in savings. We shaved $39 million off of our operating budget, and that's why we have a much better looking future today than what we were looking at just a short time ago. And we'll talk more about our 5-year plan in a few minutes. But if we continue to move forward with some of the progress we've already got started and continue our transformation initiatives, the future looks a lot better. You see the blue line there is where we were going, and that orange looking line is where we're headed, provided we keep on with the fiscal discipline. So within 3 to 4 years, rather than being an agency that's fiscally insolvent, we'll be an agency that's very, very fiscally strong. So the Board of Directors, by unanimous vote, passed a budget for fiscal 14 that goes back to those 3 basics: focusing on employees, investing, and really relying back on our customers, and maintaining fiscal sustainability. For our employees, they're seeing real investment monetarily for the first time again in many years. For our customers, I'll talk about a number of improvements that are coming forward, and fiscal sustainability, cutting costs, increasing revenues through some creative strategies, and restructuring the whole way we do business. Some of the cost savings were huge, and others were relatively small, but everybody, we wanted to make sure, began to look at MARTA as a way to look at MARTA in many ways to become more efficient. And our IT department, I want to thank the leadership of Sham Duna and his whole team, was able to recognize over $14 million in sometimes one-time costs in cutting a number of staff positions, as well as finding ways to redo some of our capital programs. Major savings coming out of IT, but also making us better. Our IT department is stronger now than what it was, even though we're saving all these dollars. Our finance group found ways to redo many of our bonds, resulting in over $4.5 million in savings. Our payroll group, who we challenged, we went in and I've said to pretty much every department in the agency, if you can do it better, faster, cheaper, we will invest back in you. Our payroll department went from one that was pretty antiquated, where we gave out a paper paycheck to pretty much every employee, to now we have a completely 100% direct deposit group, paperless transactions. They can go back and see their paychecks from 20 years ago, and they can make all their changes to their W-2s and all those. That doesn't save millions of dollars, but it does save some money, and it brings us further into the future. We've converted almost completely over the next few years. We're converting to CNG. And why is that important for compressed natural gas? Because compressed natural gas costs the equivalent of about $1 of regular diesel fuel these years. And many other small but very impactful things that we're doing to save money and break our investment back to and make sure that we're protecting your investment. But in addition to cost cutting, we recognize we have to also increase our revenues. And our basic message is that MARTA is open for business. And if you have a great idea and would like to partner with us, we want to hear about it. We're going to be more aggressive with advertising. We're going to create more concession opportunities with the private sector. And we're going to make sure that all of our assets, such as parking and other places, we're going to look for opportunities with other public and the private sector to generate new revenues to bring back, again, more returns on your investment. But the most exciting opportunities we're taking advantage of is in transit-oriented development. As I mentioned earlier, we have 38 rail stations And around every one of those stations is an opportunity to partner with other public sector groups as well as the private sector. Our goals around these stations is to make it even better for our current and future riders. Secondly, we hope to create better neighborhoods. We want to be a partner in these neighborhoods to make them better, stronger, create new economic vitality in them. And then thirdly, of course, we want to recognize some revenues. We'll be making some major announcements on our transit-oriented development program within the next 3 to 4 weeks, including a huge new opportunity at the King Memorial Station that's going to transform that community and be the model of what's to follow for at least 5 other new TOD investments that we'll be making over the next 2 years. All of these improvements are part of a plan. We've got a 5-year plan that began when the board hired KPMG more than 2.5, 3 years ago to begin laying out some areas for us to make some improvements. They looked at over 60 different activity areas and came back with ideas of about that we could improve our efficiency in about 12 focus groups and into about 12 focal areas. And that's what we're doing. We're moving fast and on pace with all those recommendations, but taking it much, much further. We're looking at every element of our business, and wherever we can be faster, better, more efficient, we're taking those challenges on. After 1 year, we are again on pace to do some things that will bring, again, even more fiscal sustainability to our agency. But we must also invest in our employees. These are the folks who work hard every day, folks like Mr. Dumas, and we're going to do things to make them feel good about coming to work every day. We've instituted Casual Fridays. You don't notice it here today because everybody's dressed up because we got guests in the house. But we're doing a number of things to improve employee morale, making it a better, more inviting place to work. Our goal is to create an employee group that's quite diverse, that reflects the highest level of professionalism of all of our ranks, and one that rewards outstanding behavior. We're bringing back merit-based increases in the next year or so, and we're going to get our folks some other things to energize their juices. We're bringing back the bus and rail rodeos. This is where our folks get to compete against each other, against others within the state, and internationally to show their skills in driving buses and conducting our trains. And a number of things we want to do to make our customer life even more impressive. Beginning next week, you'll see some improvements on nighttime rail service with more frequent service, and we're going to be tackling some of our most troublesome bus routes by bringing more service. But then next year is when you really begin to see it with a dramatic increase in peak hour bus and rail service so that we can cut down the amount of time people have to wait in between their buses and trains. We're investing, because we've heard from our customers loud and clear through our customer service feedback that we need to invest more in the reliability of our equipment. Our equipment needs to be cleaner and needs to be more customer friendly. So as a result, we are actually replacing more than half of our bus fleet over the next 3 years and all of our vans in our mobility service. In addition, we'll be making some major changes within the lighting in our stations to make it safer and brighter and more inviting. And we're going to make some major improvements on our escalators and elevators. I have to tell you a quick story. On July 4th, which is one of our biggest days in the transit system, where we carry literally hundreds of thousands of folks, I was with my family as we were going downtown to impart in some of the fun activities. So we get on one of the MARTA elevators, and on the elevator, there's four ladies come on with us, and they were here for a convention. And to be candid, and I don't want to ruin anybody's breakfast, but there was a pungent smell of urine on the elevator. Otherwise, it was very clean. And so one of the ladies looks around and she goes, well, we really need to bring some of my friends from New York City down here to show these people in Atlanta how to run a transit system. So I called my buddy Joe Irves, who's our senior director of operations, and Rich Krisak, who's our chief operating officer, and said, we've got to do something about these elevators. Because even though they're clean, they still have this ongoing odor. So I'm not going to tell you which station, but we've got a pilot program underway in one of our elevators that literally, if a person goes in there, we've got the cameras on, We've got sensors that are monitoring what's happening in the elevators. And if a person were to misbehave in that elevator, we're notified almost immediately. This elevator's been up now, this test unit, for about a month. And for the first time, we had someone try to violate it this past weekend. The sensors went off, started flashing. Our police were there in time to catch this gentleman quite literally with his pants down and make an arrest. That's the type of technology we are investing in. And if this test proves to be worth its merit, then we're going to be implementing several of these types throughout the entire industry. Throughout our entire service area. And as I mentioned, restrooms will be reopening several of the restrooms that were closed, actually beginning tomorrow. You'll see more restrooms open throughout our service area. But safety is one of the things that we have to continually remind people about, and we can never rest on our laurels. Safety and security of the system. As a general manager, I do get the occasional 2 a.m. text and 2 a.m. phone call, and every single time without fail, the first thing I think of, have we had a derailment? Have we had some major accident? Have one of our employees or one of our customers been hurt? And so this is one of those areas you never really can rest on. But I'm proud to say that our police department, led by our Chief Wanda Dunham, and our safety department, led by Interim Director Rod Humbry, they are doing everything they can to make us as safe as possible. So we're investing in technology with new phone apps that allow us to really report very quickly bad behavior within the system. We're also investing in new technologies that allow us to pick up on abnormal behavior on the train tracks, in our stations, on our platforms, more police visibility. But certainly the Ride with Respect campaign is one that's bringing back wonderful dividends to us. I think City Council President Cesar Mitchell helped us kick off our Ride with Respect campaign with a huge event just a few weeks ago. And after just 1 month, we've already made 200 suspensions. And only one person has been a repeat offender. What that's telling us is that they're getting the message and they're behaving themselves more than ever before. So the Ride with Respect is really paying dividends for you, our investors. One of the other major complaints, and Jim Durrett, one of our board members, a former board chair, he lets me hear about it all the time, is that at any given time of the 150 signs that we have in our service area throughout our rail platforms, about half could literally be not working. And if you look up there, that's our sign of the past. And this is our sign of the future. So not only does it bring more information, but it also creates new advertising opportunities for us. So in real time, we'll have more of these signs at our station entrances and sprinkled throughout the service area so that we can give our customers more reliable information so that when they, as I do, every person when they walk on the platform, the first thing they do is look up to see when that next train or bus arrives. And so if we're not working properly, it immediately tells us that we're not doing a good job. So we're going to make sure that we implement this program aggressively. New phone apps to tell you exactly what time when the next bus and trains will arrive are in place now. Free of charge, our MARTA On The Go app. And we did want to alert you about several major projects we've got underway to make sure that we're, again, building the capital projects that are necessary to keep the agency efficient and keep our customers safe and making the customer service ride even more pleasant. The MARTA Buckhead Bridge, which connects east and west Buckhead, is scheduled to open this spring. It's a great partnership between GDOT, the federal government, and MARTA, along with the Buckhead CID, and it is going to increase ridership pretty dramatically in those areas. Our Integrated Operations Center will allow us to combine a number of our operational activities as well as police and emergency management all in one area to improve efficiency in our overall customer service delivery. And a very exciting opportunity is now emerging. Just across the street, we recently completed our travel training center. This allows our folks who currently use our mobility service, that's for people with disabilities who cannot use a regular bus system, to be trained to convert to the bus system. On average, we spend upwards of $18,000 per year for a customer who uses a mobility service. By converting them to the bus service, it drops that cost down to $1,800 per year. So it's a real incentive for us to get more and more folks on this service. And certainly, last but not least, we're working very closely with the city to bring the Atlanta streetcar into full operation later on this spring. It's a great project that we're excited about and that the city's truly excited about, and we think it's the first of what's going to be a whole network of new opportunities. And I'd like to end the conversation where we began it, and that is talking about investment. As we think about the investment you're making, again, in your transit system, we'd like to let you know that already we are a pretty good steward of your tax dollars. This chart shows how Atlanta stacks up with other major cities around the country. And our cost per hour, cost per passenger, those sorts of things, we're amongst the industry leaders. If we look at cities like Houston and Dallas, we all spend around $400 million per year in operations for the transit system. But you in Atlanta get twice as many customers for that $400 million as those two cities. But, and this is where we're in danger, Houston and Dallas, if you look at this chart here, are spending upwards of $400 million annually on their capital program to expand light rail, to bring in new and different types of services, while we're at MARTA only spent $100 million in a comparable year. So we're falling behind the cities who we're competing with for talent, who we're competing with for Fortune 500 companies, and who we're competing with to just be the iconic cities of the future. And when we look at what's happened in other cities, MARTA was formed around the same time in the same 7-year period as Washington, D.C. and the San Francisco BART system. All three were envisioned as 100-mile rail properties. Those two cities have done that. They've continued their investment. And as a result, when people think about iconic transit systems around the country, they do think about WMATA and they think about the San Francisco system. They don't think of us in the same way. And I pledge to you, if you were to make that investment to expand our transit system, we're ready to go. We've got 3 major projects along major corridors, the I-20 East, the Clifton Corridor, and, of course, the Georgia 400, that with the proper investment, we can get those projects going. But if you do decide to just stay at a 48-mile transit system, we're going to be the best, most efficient 48-mile transit system as well. So again, to end where we began, we are making your investment pay major dividends for our community. We thank you for your time, and we thank you for your continued investment in MARTA. We appreciate it.
Stick around. Keith, I'd invite you to take a seat there. We're going to move to our next part. But first, thank you very much. Well done. And I want to just say that those employees of 35 years, you guys must have started when you were, what, 5? You guys don't look like you've been around for 35 years. That's fantastic. Congratulations to all you. All right, if we could, I want to get going with a conversation that I'm looking forward to hearing. Chairman Daniels, if you want to come up, Robert Ash, if you would come as well, and Maria Saporta from the Saporta Report is going to grill you guys. And Maria, I turn it over to you.
I guess. Hello? Is this on? All right. Keith, you mentioned that there isn't the best perception of MARTA in Atlanta. You saw that before you came. And this is actually for all of you. And if we can have our answers be short and sweet, or they don't have to be so sweet if you don't want them to be sweet, but short. And that way we can get a few of these questions in. Why does there seem to be an anti-MARTA and an anti-transit attitude in Metro Atlanta, unlike other major metro areas in the United States? Robbie, welcome to being chairman.
I think historically, if you look at the history, I'm one who follows history very closely. If you look at the history of Atlanta, most people in the region, and especially leaders, have not grown up with transit. most people who've grown up in the Northeast and the Midwest, they grew up with transit in the New York areas, in the Cleveland areas, Detroit areas, Chicago. Those cities had transit, and it was, I think everyone understood that transit was going to be a way of life. Growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, I had never had a ride. My family never drove me to the airport till I was a teenager. Everybody understood that you were going to take the Shaker Rapid, you were going to take the RTA out to the airport, and then they would pick you up closer to your community. Everything that we did was public transportation oriented. I think Atlanta we've grown up in a car-centric society. We take our kids to school, they don't really catch the school bus. And when you don't have that as a basis, as a foundation for transit, many people don't feel comfortable with it.
Well, Keith, you came through the Charlotte world, and they also didn't have a history, and I would argue a little bit with you. We did have streetcars that went all over the place in Atlanta, and that was before my lifetime, but there was an extensive transit system. But Charlotte did not have a history of transit, and yet they've embraced it, and it's been embraced by people of all income groups and all races and genders. Why? What's the difference?
I think, well, that's an excellent question, and I think part of it certainly has to do with the way MARTA was formed, and it was a much more divisive formulation for MARTA in its history. Not every county joined in when the initial votes were taken, and as a result, I don't think the racial divisions that were there when the agency first started have completely healed. So I do think there's opportunity, though. And part of what my job is to eliminate any and all reasons for people not to want to invest in the system. So the routine excellence that we're talking about, I think, begins to shape away any of those notions that an investment in the transit system is a waste of money. So we'll do what we can to bridge those gaps and make sure that people want to invest in MARTA.
Robbie, I'm going to send this one to you. 2 counties provide the financial support for MARTA, which is the backbone of the regional transit system. That has been the situation since 1971. You could say we've been stuck in neutral or stuck in the mud, whichever way you want to call it. And unfortunately, there are no proposals to expand the support for MARTA beyond those 2 counties, and or to get any support from the state, unless someone in the audience knows something I don't know. What can be done to change that? How can one broaden the base of support for MARTA?
I think the most important thing we can do is work that the board is already committed to, which is to get our, as the graphic you saw earlier demonstrates, we were on a downward trajectory, one towards fiscal insolvency. I think we now have a working majority, a consensus on the board that we have to turn our own shop around, that we have to restore our bottom line. We have to demonstrate to whatever funding partner we might be looking to in the future that we are a place where they are comfortable making an investment. I think we've made a number of tremendous improvements. I think we have a lot of hard work to do yet to do. We have a wonderful general manager. We have a committed executive management team. We have some great employees. And we have a board who's committed to doing that hard work, to taking the steps to making us a fiscally responsible, a demonstrably fiscally responsible partner, so that wherever the next funding comes from, we use it in a responsible fashion.
But does that somehow set up a catch-22? Where the other potential partners say, well, you really don't need us. You've got yourself fiscally sound, you're operating just fine. So, you don't need state support, you don't need other partners in the region to help.
I think that the fiscally responsible thing for us to do is to get our own bottom line in order. There's no question in my mind that that's job number one here. I do believe that if we demonstrate fiscal stability, fiscal prudence, transit and having an integrated regional transportation system is too important for it not to move forward at some point. What it looks like, I don't know. That's above my pay grade in some sense. But if we make ourselves a credible, viable partner, there's no question in my mind that we'll be at the table when those decisions are being made.
Keith, what do you see the next potential opportunity for MARTA to expand? I mean, there's been a lot of talk of Clayton County being a potential new county to join the MARTA system, and yet I have not seen, again, any tangible proposal to get Clayton to join the system.
Well, just to second some of the things Robbie mentioned, effectively what we have to do is become, again, routinely excellent in all we do to encourage investment. One of the reasons why we were successful in North Carolina was that as people saw the transit system growing, they wanted to invest in a winner. And part of what I wanted to convey to folks out here today is that MARTA is not the transit system that people had envisioned. That today we have former general managers Ken Greger and Richard McCrillis, and they've done a great job over the years of producing a very, very solid product, but people have just not known about it. A major component of what we have to do next is get the word out that we are a safe system, that our costs are amongst the best in the country, and our employees do work hard. We do that, and I think the investment will come.
When it was announced that the Braves were going to be moving to Cobb County, there was a lot of anti-transit rhetoric that came out of that, including the chairman of the Republican Party of Cobb County said, I'm fine to support the stadium as long as it means people coming from the north and from the east by car and not people from Atlanta by rail. How do you combat that sentiment? Pass it on to Fred, I guess.
I mean, I think that gentleman respectfully doesn't speak for the majority of Cobb County voters. I just don't believe that reflects the modern reality in Cobb County. We have not been approached, as far as I know, about providing transit service to the new Brave Stadium, assuming it moves forward. Most of what I know about that project I read on supporterreport.com.
Well,
so
thank you.
I
didn't pay him to say that.
I will defer to you on what it is that I know about it. I do believe that, particularly in terms of the people who work at that stadium, the people who work for Aramark or whoever their food vendor is, the people who sweep the stadium, who take the tickets. Those are folks who are not routinely going to be driving in single passenger vehicles to the stadium to get to their job. I think it will be important for them, assuming that they do end up making that move, to figure out how they get their workforce. And frankly, how they get people like me who live in Midtown and aren't really enthusiastic about driving north into one of the most congested intersections in the country at 6 p.m. To get to the game.
So what does it say about our region that we're planning to build a major venue that will attract thousands of people at one time, that is more than 10 miles away from the nearest MARTA rail station? Here we are supposed to be thinking about good planning. We have one of the, as you said, a world-class rail transit system, and yet we're planning, the general we as a region, are planning to build a major sports venue that is not attached to our rail transit system. What does that say about our region?
I think the reality of the situation is right now we're still early. We're in the early stages. And I think once the transit planners and once the development community comes together, they're going to come to the conclusion that MARTA needs to be a partner, that Cobb County Transit and all the transit systems will need to be a partner for that entity to be successful. It's not gotten a lot of discussion yet, but the more that they look at the information, the more that they really dive down into the numbers and what makes sense. I think they're rational people in Cobb County. I think they're very intelligent people in Cobb County, and they will come to the conclusion that they will have to approach MARTA and approach the other transit partners in the region for the Braves' success in Cobb County to be successful from a regional perspective.
So let me turn the tables back to MARTA. For 40 years, there's been a stadium there at the same location, and there has been no MARTA rail access to that stadium. Why hasn't MARTA been more proactive to build a rail transit system that actually serves the major venue in our region?
Well, from my understanding, those decisions were made, again, those were made decades ago, and for any one of the three of us to try to take claim or try to...
Today is now. I mean,
And-
the Braves had said they wanted to have transit access to the stadium,
Right,
and no one really responded to that.
Right. And what we offered was bus service to that station, and also wanted to have a broader discussion about what we could do on a larger basis. Those things never really materialized. We were never approached with the mantra of let's expand direct rail service to the Brave Stadium. And what I'd rather focus on is the future. We've got
And that was going to be my last question.
We've got on the drawing board 3 wonderfully productive projects that could be transformative, any one of the 3 or all 3. And we are just waiting to see what type of investment the federal government, local developers, and our other local partners may want to make in any one of those projects. And I think the future looks bright. As we look at the recent study that was completed that showed that 70% of the people in this region want to see more mass transit, higher than some of the percentages that you'd even see for supportive schools. I think that begins to say that the future of mass transit is bright. It's just a matter of us getting our acts together, getting more collaboration amongst all the major shareholders, and moving forward with a concerted plan. Too many people are disappointed about what happened with the T-Splosh, but as most of us know in this industry, there's typically 2 to 3 failed votes like that before there's a successful measure, and I'm looking forward to the successful one.
Okay, if all of y'all could dream for the future, no constraints in your dreaming, would we have MARTA serving the entire region, or would we have a new entity that would combine all the existing entities as under one roof? What would you like to see in terms of a great regional transit system?
A successful one.
Well, of course. I mean, I would hope you wouldn't want to dream of an unsuccessful one, right?
I think my vision would incorporate not only MARTA, but all the transit systems, and we would look at the most efficient mechanism that works for each area. From the perspective of if it's BRT running from DeKalb County over to Cobb County, then we'd do that. If it's light rail running from Gwinnett into the city, then we would do that. We wouldn't, I guess my vision has no constraints from the perspective of whatever makes sense that is more efficient, not for the people like me that sit around the board, but ultimately the riders, the people who we help generate economic development for the entire region using transportation as that foundation. I think that's what the real vision has to be in terms of moving our organizations forward.
I think Fred nailed it. The answer is a pragmatic one, which is I think MARTA does a tremendous job. I think when we get through the transformation initiative, more people will know that. I appreciate very much everybody coming today to help us have the opportunity to tell our story, to take that story back with you. I hope that you will continue to be open to learning about the changes we're making at MARTA and what kind of a partner we can be with you, for you and with you. My vision of the region transit-wise is that we have regional transit so that someone can get on in Marietta and make it to Decatur with minimal disruptions and as efficiently as possible.
Brandon wants to know if he can make it from
Sure.
Marietta over to Gwinnett, right?
Sure, and I don't. While I feel strongly about MARTA and the job we are doing, I don't feel strongly that that person has to board something that has a MARTA label on it on the side, ride something that has a MARTA label on it the entire way through, and get off at something that has a MARTA label on it as well. I don't think that's what's important to people. The old LaGuardia quote about people don't care if the person picking up trash is a Democrat or Republican, they just want their damn trash picked up. I think people just want to be able to get from point A to point B, and that's what we should be focused on.
think they summed it up well. Our goal as the operators is to spend every penny wisely, to make sure we provide a vision of laying out what the alternatives are. But ultimately, we want the citizens to tell us what they want. You know, we read every day that people are driving less, and this new creative class of talent out there, they don't want the big car payment and necessarily the traditional way of living. They want a new urban lifestyle that's vibrant, that's not hunkered down by a car. They want to be connected with their cell phones and with their iPads, and what better way to be connected than when you're riding on a MARTA train or bus or any other of our partners within the region. So we look forward to just more mass transit. I don't care what name's on the side.
Well, thank you so much for all your answers. I think what we've heard today gives us hope for transit in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you all. Thank you all, and thank you, Maria. Robert Ash, do you have more you would like to say? Because I want to close out with your last word as the incoming chair. So please close us out, and thank you all for being here.
Sure, let me just, time's brief, so let me just say this. Thank you all very much for coming today. We're very excited about the work that's underway here. I want to give an opportunity to recognize the executive management team and the staff who made this possible. If y'all would stand and let us thank you. Keith mentioned this already. We have some former general managers here. I also know we have some former board members here. I would hope that you would all stand and allow us to thank you. Thank you all very much. With that, the story you've heard today is a very real one. We are not the agency we want to be, but we believe we are making strong progress to becoming that agency. With the executive management team, the incredible employees, the incredibly dedicated employees that we have, and I think a board who is committed to doing the hard work to make us the credible partner we want to be, to show you that we are worthy of your investment. We thank you very much for the opportunity to give you to make our case to you today. Please go home. Please continue to listen to what we're doing. Thank you all for coming.